Hello and welcome to Coop's Corner, the first ever episode. I'm Cooper Petagna, your host, college football analyst at CBS Sports, and I'm fired up. I'm really excited to bring you this product coming to you once a week, every Monday. That is our hope, but we're going to be flexible. Sometimes maybe things are going to have to move around a little bit, but right here on Cooper Petagna's YouTube channel, we'll be talking college football, a lot of scouting, and a lot of scouting in the NFL draft when it's that time of the year as well. Maybe sprinkle in a little high school recruiting. But that is really going to be the fixture of this channel. Sure, we'll have week-by-week reactions to everything happening in college football. Maybe we'll talk big picture some weeks. Maybe we'll talk a little bit under the microscope other weeks. Maybe we'll do both. You don't know where it can go. I'm really excited to bring this to you. But guys, first, I got to tell you, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We are literally building this from the ground up. I think the only two people subscribed right now are my cousin and my buddy who was in my wedding. So this is, if you're starting listening to this YouTube channel, this podcast, whatever you want to call it, and you're subscribing or you're liking it, guys, I appreciate it, man. And I'm going to do my best to bring you the best content possible, talk about the things that I see when I'm watching the tape over the weekend or watching the TV copy. And then on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there is a lot of ground to cover, but we'll call that studying the tape. That is a really big differential when we're on this show and we're talking about that. We're saying, hey, I watched this game versus I studied this game. Okay, so give me a little bit of grace. I'm coming off of paternity leave. Shout out to my daughter and to my wife. And I'm going right into this thing head first. So I watched a lot of games. I studied some of them. But nonetheless, I'm fired up and I'm here to give you my thoughts. And without further ado, let's get to it. Let's start with the good, okay? We're going to go good, bad, ugly here, what I saw over the weekend. And I want to start with Sunday night. I want to start with the Miami Hurricanes. How about the Miami Hurricanes? One of 3 top 10 matchups, Miami, Notre Dame. Notre Dame coming off a fantastic season under Mario Cristobal. And we didn't really know what we were going to get with this game. And it was Miami that came out swinging under Carson Beck, had the UCL surgery over the offseason. We didn't know what Carson Beck we were going to get. Were we going to get the 9-interception Carson Beck from last season? They talked about it a little bit on the broadcast. Didn't feel like he had the freedom in Mike Bobo's offense to do what he wanted to do at the line of scrimmage. The other thing is, he also didn't have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. And the question for me coming into this year for Carson Beck was, what's it going to look like in Coral Gables in terms of your receiving core? There was a lot of positive buzz around JoJo Trader. They get C.J. Daniels over from LSU, who battled an injury much of last year, but before that, he was at Liberty. Dynamic player. They bring in Keelan Merriam, one of the best kick returners in the entire country, with some developmental upside at the receiver position, and truly a guy that I think can rise up draft boards. But the biggest surprise of this game was true freshman, 17-year-old Malachi Toney. And I had talked to Mario Cristobal. For those of you that don't know me, I worked for Mario Cristobal when I was at Oregon. I worked for Mario Cristobal when I was at Alabama. I have a ton of respect for him. And this was a guy that he raved about in Malachi Toney. He said, hey, he's different. And Mario and I talk enough, and I know him enough to where I got a pretty good feel for, okay, is this a guy that can contribute immediately? Is this a guy that he's excited about in the future? Or is this a guy that he really believes in, that not only has the ceiling to grow in as a player, but can contribute early? And I got to be honest, for me, the expectations for Malachi Toney coming in this season were very limited, understanding the fact that he was 17 years old and that he's a reclassification. Fast forward to Sunday night, it's Malachi Toney show, man. This guy can play. And you think about Malachi Toney and what he brings to the table. 82 yards receiving, 6 receptions, 1 touchdown. But you turn on the tape, it was a mixed tape. The short area quickness off the line of scrimmage, the change of direction, the combination of suddenness and acceleration in and out of routes. He's going up against one of the best coached defensive backfields in the country. This emergence of Malachi Toney, and I think we can say that because they went up against a legitimate college football playoff team in Notre Dame, it's a big deal for Miami. Takes a lot of pressure off of Carson Beck. And you think about the guys that he's had in the past. I mentioned Ladd McConkey, who played primarily on the outside for Georgia, but you can move him around as well. It's a big deal because C.J. Daniels, Keelan Marion, Joshua Moore, JoJo Trader allows them to kind of develop on their own timeline. Keelan Marion was the guy that got there in the spring. So these reps are really important. The other thing that stood out to me with Miami offensively, their offensive line is obviously one of the best units in the country. Brockermeyer steps in, just like the lineage of other centers that we've seen that have transferred in over the last couple of years for Miami. I thought he handled himself extremely well. You think about Malinoa on the right side, played very well. Alex Mirabal getting a lot out of that group. Elijah Lofton, we saw some flashes of them. You can still tap into a lot of these guys. So if you're Miami, very, very productive night. But the biggest takeaway outside of Toney is Carson Beck looked like himself. And that's a really big deal. I mean, you go back to 2023, this was one of the better players in the country. Going into 2024 was a guy that was being heralded as a potential number one pick in the draft. That obviously didn't happen, had a tough year. Circumstances, you can call it circumstantial with what played out at Georgia. That team still goes 11-2, gets hurt at halftime of the SEC championship game against Texas. If that's his floor, that's a really good thing. So Miami, that's the good. If you're Mario Cristobal, Shannon Dawson's a dude, man. That is a very wide open, flexible offense, if you want to call it that, for Carson Beck to have the controls of. He just looked very free. He looked very relaxed, and he looked very experienced. I mean, we're going to talk about some other young quarterbacks. The difference of what we saw in caliber of play between guys who have played this game for multiple years or going into their second year as a starter versus guys who haven't, big difference. So, big night out of Miami, big to get it at home, big to get it in front of that crowd, and big to get it versus a very legit opponent. Like Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, they're legit. And CJ Carr is a guy, like if you didn't know his name coming into this game, I didn't know what to expect. The evaluation of him out of high school, like there are a lot of things that we liked. He was a guy that we're kind of teetering on. Is he going to be a 5-star? Is he going to be a top 75 guy? Is he going to be right in the middle? Grandson of Lloyd Carr, if you're not familiar with CJ Carr. But I can tell you this. We had him at Elite 11. Tom Loy, Andrew Ivins, myself, got to sit down, spend a couple minutes with him. The kid is a really interesting kid. Hyper competitive, but has a super maturity about him. And when they put him on camera in that primetime game on Sunday night, I mean, you can talk about poise, you can talk about competitive temperament, you can talk about all those things. And you look at the eyes don't lie, Chico, right? There is no fear in that young man. So Notre Dame's going to be okay. Jaden Greathouse is not going to have one of those games every week. The addition of Malachi Fields, I like a lot. The offensive line, we'll see, man. Hurts to have Charles Jagasaw out right now. You know, a couple of transfer portal exits. Pat Coogan, Rocco Spindler. That offensive line will get better. They got a lot of young talent there. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame aren't going anywhere. Guys, just a reminder, you are locked into Coop's Corner, the first ever episode. And if you're listening, I appreciate you very much. Guys, you can find me on X. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, all under the name Cooper Petagna, right here on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoopsPetag. That one was different. Cooper Petagna was taken. I don't know if that was my uncle or what. All right, let's stick with the good. This time we're going to talk some LSU and what a big win it was for Brian Kelly in LSU. I mean, you think about that game, everything that goes into that game. Got the battle at Death Valley a little bit. Got Dabo Swinney, Brian Kelly. You got one team that's built off the foundation of program and player development, and that's Dabo Swinney. Dipped into the portal, when he got Tristan Smith out of Southeastern Missouri State. Didn't hear much about him. When he got Will Helt out of Purdue, going to be a really good player. Showed up a little bit in that game. And then you have Brian Kelly, Blake Baker, Joe Sloan in a must-win year for Brian Kelly. It's well documented. Brian Kelly has not won a season opener before this game in Baton Rouge. So what they do, give credit to the front office, man. I'm here. I'm a former personnel guy. I got to give credit to the front office. You have to give a ton of credit to Austin Thomas, Preston Tiffany before he left for the Philadelphia Eagles, the job that they have done. Completely different team. And I had a lot of question marks coming into this game for LSU on the offensive line. I mean, you think about all the new faces. Tyree Adams has gotten to sit, developed. He's played a little bit. You think about that guard spot, that left guard spot ends up being Paul Mupinga. A lot of people thought it was going to be DJ Chester. Mupinga wins out. Then you think about center, they bring over Braylon Moore from Virginia Tech. We'll talk about him in a second. Right guard, Josh Thompson, who I loved coming out of Northwestern. And then Weston Davis, a guy that was a pretty intriguing player coming out of high school there in Texas. And another guy that hadn't played a bunch. And who do they have week one? Peter Woods, Tamarian Parker, Sammy Brown. Wood has a really good front seven, and Tom Allen is the defensive coordinator. So watching a lot of LSU football, I was kind of like holding my breath a little bit because the guys that just walked out the door were pretty good too. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier. It's good players, man. So for LSU to play the way that they played, and I get it, the stats in terms of running the football weren't crazy. They ran for 108. But if you're an LSU fan and you watched every game last year, you knew running the football was like nails against a chalkboard. It was really hard. And LSU did some really nice things to get creative with the run game. And it's often overlooked because there's so much buzz around Garrett Nussmeier, rightfully so. And you look at this receiving core and they're just like, God, they got everything. You got Trey'Dez Green at 6'7". You have Barry Brown and Chris Hilton, the speedsters. You have Aaron Anderson, who I love. And I mean no disrespect to this, but I think Aaron Anderson is who a lot of people think Zachariah Branch is. So smooth as a route runner. Great one-cut change of direction. The acceleration in and out of routes. And then the run after catch ability, which it goes all the way back to his time at Edna Carr. An elite punt returner. We haven't even seen that part of his game. And then Bauer Sharp, who I really liked, who was really active in that first half. So I say all that to say that's a lot of new faces for LSU, and they did what they had to do in the running game, and that was maybe one of the most cohesive offensive line performances that I have seen from a Brian Kelly offensive line going into year 4. And that bodes really well because those guys haven't played with each other. All 5 of them, they haven't. Let's talk about LSU and Nussmeier for a little bit because I got to talk about him before we get to this defense. That guy's made of the right stuff, man. There's some guys you watch and you're like, all right, I can tell this guy's been around ball for a really long time. And he is subject to his fair share of risque type of throws, right? That's what makes him really fun. He's a gunslinger. He played within himself, man. 28 of 38, touchdown for LSU. You see everything that he's doing pre-snap. He's a fun player to watch. And the biggest thing is, I thought he maybe had 2 turnover-worthy throws. Maybe got a little aggressive. But this is the Garrett Nussmeier, the version of him that's the best version for LSU as a team. If you get this guy week in and week out, a guy that's going to take care of the football, maximize explosives, play on time, LSU's dangerous, man. I think everybody learned that. They just went into a very difficult environment on the road and won and played really, really good ball in the second half. I didn't even have on my rundown that I wanted to talk about LSU's offense. I want to talk about LSU defense, man. Blake Baker, he's a dude. Got the LSU baseball cap on, got the cut hoodie. He's a dude, man. And going into year 2, this team, both offensively and defensively, and from a head coach standpoint, when you hear Brian Kelly talk about LSU during fall camp, you could tell these guys had a quiet confidence about them. And it's kind of like, all right, well, wait and see. I know we got to put up or shut up, but wait and see. Blake Baker to be able to have Gilreath back on the defensive line, to be able to get Bernard Gooden during the spring from USF, to add Jack Pyburn, to add Pat Payton, to bring in Gabe Relaford for another year. They have depth and they have athleticism and explosiveness there, which is really important for a Blake Baker scheme that they haven't had. It opens everything up. Second level, you got Whit Weeks, who's arguably the best linebacker in all of college football, right next to his older brother, Wes Weeks. And then you have Harold Perkins, who the big question mark was not only coming off an ACL, but where does he fit? We saw him explode onto the scene as a freshman, as an edge rusher, take over games against Arkansas and Ole Miss. Thought the sky's the limit, comes back, LSU moves him to an off-ball backer, and it's just not a fit. He didn't see the game as quickly as certainly a see-ball, get-ball type of guy coming off the edge. It didn't work out. So what they moved him to star. And it's pretty cool how this conversation came up because Blake Baker asked Harold Perkins, where do you think you fit best? And he had to nudge him a little bit. And he said, hey, star spot. Showed up, man. He can cover tight ends. You can obviously use him as a second-level pressure guy. His ability to come downhill and close space is unique. So that's a big development. And then the back end, maybe the biggest. P.J. Woodland has another year in the program. They liked him a lot last year. Maybe from a strength conditioning experience standpoint, it wasn't there. Played well. Mansour Delane, arguably the biggest addition for LSU this entire offseason. I mean, think about T.J. Moore, Brian Wesco. Those guys were pretty much held in check. Now, it helps Antonio Williams, who's going to be a Sunday dude, gets nicked up in the first half of that game, has a hamstring injury. But Mansour Delane was awesome. And I have to admit, as a guy that scouted him in the transfer portal, I liked him. I didn't love him. He showed some stuff on Saturday that I didn't expect from him. And that's a huge development for LSU. Back end to Marcus Cooley, Jordan Gilbert, A.J. Halsey comes back in the second half after rocking a dude in the bowl game. Whew. I mean, they got the pieces. I think if you were LSU, they're probably like, I wish we had one or two more guys in the trenches. We'll see if Sadir Mitchell can come along, but big game, man. And I'll say this, the thing that really stuck out to me the most, the Berrien Brown touchdown that gets called back, LSU set to go up a score there in the second half. That ends up in a missed field goal. And that's it. Like, we've seen that. We saw that versus USC, seen it against Florida State of the last 2 years. The momentum swings in these games, and then all of a sudden you look up, just gets away from them. LSU defense comes on the field, forces a 3-and-out, handles their business. I mean, you want to talk about like championship stuff between your neck? You want to talk about building confidence? That's how you do it, man. So Blake Baker, a free Blake Baker, a confident Blake Baker. Dangerous dude, man. Dangerous dude. All right, guys, just a reminder, you are locked into Coop's Corner. Very fired up to be here with you. And like I said, if you don't know who I am, happy to introduce myself. I worked 10 years in college football, a couple years on this side, all with CBS Sports 24/7, doing some recruiting, now moving into a new role with CBS Sports as a college football analyst. But before that, 7 years in college football. And I worked everywhere. First job at Alabama as an intern, interned at LSU for a cup of coffee. First full-time job at Cincinnati as assistant director of recruiting under Tommy Tuberville. Also had Zach Taylor there. 2 years there. Get a big break. Go work in Michigan for a year under Jim Harbaugh. Then I get another big break. Chris Peterson calls me. Worked there 2 years. And Coach Pete retired. And then I got an opportunity with Mario Cristobal. And then I met my wife. I wised up a little bit. And now I get to do this amazing job. So I'm fired up to be here, fired up to talk football. Scouting, evaluation, big picture. We'll get into the weeds a little bit, all right here on Coop's Corner. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. I appreciate you joining me. And it's going to be a really, really fun ride. All right, let's talk about the other top 10 matchup. And this falls under good. Ohio State, Texas, 14-7. I don't think anybody really knew what to expect in this game. You have two former 5-stars getting really their first legit experience against high-level competition in Julian Sand for Ohio State and Arch Manning. Talk about him in a second. But Ohio State, Ryan Day, Matt Patricia, that defense, I mean, I remember when Matt Patricia got hired, nobody was really fired up. It was kind of more of, all right, Ryan Day just won a national championship. He's got the credibility, but we'll see. I mean, like, you remember Matt Patricia, his last stint in the NFL wasn't really anything to write home about. He's looking for redemption right now. Texas, 336 yards, 170 yards passing, 166 rushing. I thought Steve Sarkisian could have leaned on the run a little bit more, but Matt Patricia, man, it didn't take much. Rush 3, rush 4, drop 7, drop 8. Let your athletes be athletes. And that's what Ohio State did. And Dan Orlovsky said it yesterday, I think. He said Arch Manning, Steve Sarkisian got Bill Belichick. And Patricia and Sarkisian go back to when they were in the NFL. I believe the Super Bowl. Could be wrong. Got to fact check that. You get my point. And Matt Patricia came out and had an excellent game plan for Arch Manning. You heard Eric Mangini, former head coach of the New York Jets, talk about it. Like, it kind of worked out in Ohio State's favor that this was the first offense that Matt Patricia saw, because it was a pro-style offense. It wasn't really a gimmicky offense, but you look at Ohio State, how they're built defensively. Caden Curry, Caden McDonald, state of Georgia. Edric Houston, state of Georgia. Kenyatta Jackson, state of Florida. Where do you get your beef from? That's really interesting, right? That's a really interesting conversation. You look at how Ohio State's defensive line is built. Georgia, Florida, Southeast, not really any different than what you see in the SEC. Sonny Styles, stud. Arvell Reese, stud. Arvell Reese was popping up all over the place. This is a game I watched. This is a game I have not studied. Okay? So these are thoughts going through my head as I'm sitting there watching YouTube TV and not all 22. But Arvell Reese was a guy that kept showing up. Not a difficult evaluation in high school. Difficult evaluation because we didn't have any testing measurables on Arvell Reese. He was doing the same type of things that you're seeing on Saturdays. We just didn't know what he ran. We didn't know how big he was. We didn't know any of that. He's showing up in a big-time way. Jermaine Matthews, Caleb Downs, Igbinosin, Sonny Styles, Jalen McClain. I mean, I could talk about these guys all day. C.J. Hicks, former 5-star, getting involved, pass rush situations. Ohio State's defense is legit, and the cool part about that is that allows Julian Sand to really kind of like grow at his own pace. It allows Ryan Day and Brian Hartline just to play complementary football and really kind of figure things out. Because that running game there for Ohio State, it kind of struggled to get going a little bit. 77 yards rushing. The other thing is, like, what's this going to look like for Jeremiah Smith? What's the passing game going to look like? Who's going to be that secondary option for Ohio State? Is it going to be Carnell Tate? Is it going to be Brandon Ennis? Is it going to be Max Clare? And can these guys continue to progress at a rate by the time you get to the CFP? You got a game plan for Julian Sain a little bit. And I give credit to Ryan Day. I give credit to Brian Hartline. And I give credit for Julian Sain understanding the situation and understanding that you don't have to be a hero. I say it a lot. Knowing when to be Superman and when to be Clark Kent, that's a really important trait for a quarterback. In Ohio State, the way that they're built, I mean, Julian Sain is fortunate. He's not going to have to put on the cape a lot, right? But there will be times when that will be the case. So there you have it. The good from week 1 of college football. I thought Miami's offense, I mean, to go from Cam Ward to Carson Beck, shout out to Mario Cristobal. And I know they got some guys in the chamber there that they like, Luke Nickel being one. But if you're Mario, why not keep selling this, man? Why not just say, hey, yeah, I'll take the 1-year mercenary. Maybe it's Carson Beck. Maybe you gotta come into the right situation to reprove yourself as an NFL draft prospect. It's a good spot to be. And if you're Mario, I think for sure he's going to say, why wouldn't we just build the rest of the roster to fit around the quarterback and we're ready to go? That's what he's doing. LSU, tip of the cap, Brian Kelly, the defense, a lot of game balls to give there. LSU's a serious team. Talent-wise, that's the most focused, locked in, best tackling performance I've seen from LSU. And then Ohio State, like I said, to have the luxury of that defense and to go from Jim Knowles to Matt Patricia and have very little fall off, big deal. All right, guys, quick reminder, you're locked into Coop's Corner. Appreciate you guys wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. You can watch on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Tell a friend. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts. I think I'm working on that. Shh, don't tell my producer. But yes, we got a YouTube channel. We're very fired up. All right, now for the bad. Let's talk about it a little bit. Arch Manning, #1 player in 2023 from New Orleans, Louisiana. Couple blocks from where I grew up. Manning pedigree. His 3rd game as a starter comes on the road against Ohio State in a feisty Ohio State defense. The defending national champions. A lot of expectations going into this game. I mean, my take on anything Arch Manning and anything Shedeur Sanders, good luck having a rational conversation, a rational football conversation week to week based on the performance of a Manning or a Sanders. Just not going to happen. Arch, 17 to 30, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And I'll start with this. Arch didn't play well. I went back, I watched the tape. If I had to give him a letter grade, I'd give him a D. Tough environment for him to play on. I thought he was pressing throughout the game. But I thought it was all kind of off. I thought the game plan was pretty vanilla in the first half. I think they were letting him maybe find his way a little bit. I don't think they really committed to the run like you thought they would. I know they have some new parts on the offensive line. Goosby's got a broken hand. You have Brandon Baker. It was a little bit of a question mark for me. And then you have a receiving core yet so talented. But who's going to be the guy? Wingo certainly, from a talent standpoint, seems like he's going to be that guy. You have DeAndre Moore, who I love. You have Parker Livingstone. You're trying to replace Gunnar Helm with Jack Indries, who's very talented. There's just a lot of little questions that come up week 1, but might not be a question mark week 6 or 7. And for Arch Manning, you know, I really think the biggest thing for him, he is such an aggressive quarterback just in terms of he loves to push the ball downfield. And I talked about it earlier. Matt Patricia was okay just saying, hey, like I'm going to drop 7 or 8 guys. You're going to have to hit your running back out of the backfield, or you're going to have to hit Indries in the flat. And that's where you're going to have to play. And for Arch Manning, I think there were times where he was forcing it His eyes stayed glued to the primary target. He wasn't going through his progressions, and he got sped up a little bit. And then in the second half, started to find his way. You saw 2 big-time throws, one to injuries down the sideline, another one to Parker Livingstone for the touchdown. But it was really kind of the short to intermediate that I would say, yeah, there's some concern there. There are a couple passes that he's got to make 9 out of 10 times. I think one was on a second or third down to Wingo on a little drag route that ball comes out hot and it's high. Another one, second down, third and 5 to extend the drive, the last drive of the game, with the opportunity to tie it. Footwork gets sloppy. He gets rushed. Ball comes out hot once again, not accurate. And the lack of ability to change speeds is kind of something that has shown up since he was in high school. And he can rip it. He can get it to the deep third. He can, the arm talent is evident. But the finesse and the nuance and the touch still got to come a little bit. So the way that I look at the performance for Arch Manning is, the offensive line could have played better. The running game could have been more committed to it. The receivers were in wait-and-see mode, and the quarterback looked like a quarterback making his third start against the defending national champions with Caleb Downs on the other side, and a whole bunch of other talent too. And I'm not trying to make excuses. It was objectively poor performance. That being said, my biggest takeaway is if you're Arch Manning, you're Steve Sarkisian, and you guys have a conversation after the game and say, hey, hand up, accountability. I could have done better. Each of us could have done better. And we got a chance to tie that thing up against now the number 1 ranked team in the country with less than 3 minutes. And we're not going to put another performance like that out again? Yeah, I'll take it. And here's the other thing about Arch. Love what he said in post-game. I got to play better. Like, hey, it's on me. Starts with me. He's got a maturity about him that he's going to bounce back. He's got a spine. Like the Manning stuff, I know we like to talk about it. That's where this stuff comes in. This dude's been around the outside noise for a long time. Comes with the territory. So when you hit adversity, how do you bounce back? How do you respond? And he's got a great opportunity to do that. He's going to have many opportunities throughout the season to show his mettle and what he's made of. Now, if there's anything I've learned, Texas could get to the playoff. We'll see how he develops. Yeah, maybe his grandfather was right. Hey, buddy, you need to come back for another year, And that's okay. Think about the narratives around some of these quarterbacks just a year ago. Around Nussmeier, around Miller Moss, around Cade Klubnik. Klubnik lost 34-3. A year later, he's not a unanimous, but a lot of mock drafts have him number 1. Legitimate outfits. It's week to week with this stuff. And I'm not just talking about Arch. I'm talking about all these quarterbacks. It's week to week. This guy sucks. This guy's the best. Make up your mind, man. There's a lot of different, it's a long road. There's a lot of data sets here. And maybe I'm trying to be rational with a topic that's just not capable of being rational. That being said, Arch Manning would be fine. But this week is in the bad category. All right, let's talk a little bit of Florida State, Alabama. What a game, man. What a game if you're a Seminoles fan. Alabama, they're in the bad quarter category, and I'm going to put them in timeout because the team that I want to talk about, the unit that I want to talk about is the defense. I have studied the defense performance. I have not watched the defensive or offensive performance, You can blame that on my daughter. I had to take her to the pediatrician today. But when you watch this Alabama defense, man, I'll just be honest. disappointed. This is a team that has so much talent. They're a really talented group, really at every level. And I know they don't have their big man there and Tim Keenan, but you look at every level of their defense, their guys littered that teams all over the country would love to have. Florida State, 20 first downs, 5 of 12 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down, 382 yards, 152 yards passing, 230 yards rushing. Alabama, 8 penalties. There's something going on there that I can't really kind of like put my finger on, and I'm cautious about even really kind of leaning into it too much because Mike Norvell was 2-10 last year. Billy Napier was 13-12 to start his career at Florida. In this new era of college football, I think people are so quick to write off coaches or this guy's not a program fit. Heard that about Brian Kelly. Just got his biggest win of his career in year 4. The Alabama Kalen DeBoer thing so far, it just feels intangibly a little bit off. And I'm going to talk strictly about the defensive performance. I thought guys really, really struggled to get off blocks at the line of scrimmage. There's such things as being proactive and reactive. You watch that first drive of that Florida State-Alabama game. Tell me who the more desperate team was. You could watch for 4 quarters. I could tell you the answer. And in 17 years of Nick Saban, that answer 9 times out of 10 was always Alabama. Whether they were coming off a national championship, whether they were coming off of multiple national championships, whether they had lost multiple first-round draft picks, they always had that edge that great competitors find a way to manufacture. This team, from a key and diagnose, and you got to give Gus Malzahn a ton of credit, just spreading these guys out, horizontal running game, Jalen Lucas, Thomas Castellanos, Mekhi Danzy, a lot of eye candy. But it had these guys thinking, not reacting. And I thought the group that really had the most poor play was the second level. And that was disappointing. Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson, from a reactionary speed, ability to play sideline to sideline, and then if you have the opportunity to make a tackle, they didn't show up. It went through for every level. First level, second level, third level. And it's like, who's the guy? Where's the Rolando McClain? Where's the CJ Mosley? Where is that dude? Not only just a talented football player, but like the engine that makes it go. That takes pride in the script A. Like there's some type of like psychological thing here where you hear the players talking. We got to do better, and it's we got to do this, and we got to show up every day. It's like a cry for help. You know? It's like being in a household that's strict, and then you have the fun uncle come over, and he's got to watch you for the weekend. On Friday, Saturday night, yeah, it's fun. You stay up till past midnight. You watch movies. You eat a bunch of sugar. And by Sunday, you're like, man, I know I'm supposed to be in bed by 8. I know something's a little off. I know if I'm supposed to be ready for the week, I know I got to do these things. Maybe that's a terrible analogy. My point is, and I'm not saying that Kalen DeBoer or his staff aren't doing these things or not trying to implement these things, but it's like the no earrings thing. Oh, we're not doing that this year. But man, once that's kind of seeped in a little bit, it's hard to root out. You kind of are what you are. And this was just not indicative of what people believe the standard of Alabama football to be. And it showed up a couple times last year. These dudes are really talented. Like, I want to make that point. Maybe they're not perfect, but they're as talented as any team in college football. I mean, you got guys all over the field. Xavier Brown, former 5-star. Dejoun Lee, former 5-star. Bray Hubbard, turn on the tape, did some really good things last year. Keon Sabb. I talked about the backers. Jefferson, Lawson, Quay Russaw, top 100 player. James Smith, top 100 player. Tim Keenan, LT Overton, former 5-star. Yanze Pierre, former 5-star. Nakai Hill-Green, one of the top 1 or 2 transfer portal linebackers. And whatever that, it is that has defined Alabama football under Nick Saban for 17 years of his reign of tyranny of college football, it's not there right now. I'm not saying that they can't get back there, but it doesn't exist. I mean, Florida State, offensively, physicality, took it to them. And like I said, man, Arch Manning, you got punched in the face. What are you going to do? This is gut check time for Alabama, and it wasn't pretty. All right, guys, just a reminder, you're locked into Coop's Corner. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/Coops Petag. That is COOPSPETAG. You can also find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, at Cooper Petagna. All right, without further ado, it's time for the ugly. How about that North Carolina game last night? I had no idea what to expect. Didn't expect 48-14. Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl winner. That's more than any other head coach in NFL history. 73 years old. Takes his job in North Carolina. 5-year deal, $50 million, first 3 years guaranteed. So no matter what, Chapel Bill's getting paid $30 million. Bill Belichick, Mike Lombardi, his general manager, they bring in 70 new players, 41 of them via the transfer portal, and the rest via high school. Gio Lopez, one of those guys they bring over from South Alabama. They brought over some talented guys. They brought over a handful of guys where you're just all right, it hadn't worked out yet. Maybe it will work out. And Bill Belichick had success doing that in New England. A lot of distressed assets he was able to get the most out of. North Carolina, they lose this game 48-14. Best thing we saw all night out of them was that opening drive. Freddie Kitchens, Gio Lopez had the play action going, Caleb Hood. They ended the night 1 of 10 on third down, 222 total yards, 3 turnovers. It was, ready to turn off the game in the third quarter. As bad of a display of football as I've seen in a really long time. TCU just got whatever they want, especially in the second half. Holes were opening up left and right. The tackling was putrid, and it was great on the first drive under Steve Belichick. I mean, you saw the guys rally. They were keyed in. Not good. Really not good. For a couple different reasons. So you have 70 new faces. You wonder, from a connection standpoint in that locker room, all right, stuff starts going haywire. What's the connectivity of that locker room? And that guy in New England, he had Brady, he had Brewski. For those who know, Matt Slater, Corey Dillon, Kevin Falk, Rodney Harrison, no shortage of guys. And I get it, it's college football, it's a different game. But man, that was a really, really tough watch. The tackling, the pursuit angles, just the absolute execution of TCU to be able to get whatever they want, wherever they wanted it. Blew them out of the water. The only thing you can take away from that game is Max Johnson did some nice things coming off a significant leg injury. Jordan Shipp did some nice things. Good to see him get going. Here's my thing. I mean, Bill Belichick's 73 years old. He's the best. Takes this job head on. And in my head, I'm thinking like, are you just bored? Like, all right, I can't get a job in the NFL, so I'm going to go take over North Carolina. If you're North Carolina, like, dude, I get it. Guy's got 6 Super Bowl rings. But you're 73. We've seen everything in the offseason with the 24-year-old girlfriend. It's been a little bit of a sideshow. You bring in 70 new faces. I wonder, for him this morning, looking at that tape, being like, oh, man, what am I doing? I just make a mistake. Like, do I have the stamina to oversee this turnaround? Like, do I have what it takes to not only give 100%, but 110% every single day to turn this ship around? And what does that vision look like? And all the nuance of college football and how it changes. And the guys you got to recruit, quite honestly, most of them, they didn't grow up watching you. So that advantage is a little bit of a question mark. And I'm typically not one of those guys. Like, I want to see it play out. I'd rather see a season. That performance last night was bad enough for me to look at that and say, oof. Like, I really don't know. And that's where I'm at. Like, take the emotion out of it, but it's like, oof. Yikes. So we'll see. I mean, that was abysmal. Not good football. And if you're looking for like any silver lining, I legitimately don't know what it is. So North Carolina fans, I mean, strap in, man. It could be a really, really, really long year. All right, there you have it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Man, what a way to start the season. I know we're a little bit late. Week 1, everybody's got their reaction shows. I'm hoping I can just put a little bit of a different spin on it. Maybe I can just give you my lens based on my experience from everything I've experienced in my life with football. And I enjoy it, man. It's been a lot of fun. If you're listening to the show for the first time, obviously you are because it's the first episode. Got a lot of fun things planned. I got a lot of fun things not planned, which is good. I mean, we got a blank canvas here. We can do a lot of different things. But tell a friend, if you like the show, leave a comment. Leave a comment wherever you find your podcasts. Subscribe to the show. Leave a rating. If you're on YouTube and you have a question, or if you're in the podcast comments and you have a question, ask it. I'll take it. Might not be able to answer it the way that you want, but, whatever it is, whatever you want to talk about, wherever you want me to scout, let me know, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Fired up, guys. I appreciate you, as always, watching, listening, whatever you're doing. And like I said, hope you enjoyed the first ever episode of Coop's Corner. We'll be back next week. Thanks again.